Yes, now the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Ali Ahmed, as mentioned by Ms. Molly. Thank you for the kind invitation and the kind presentation. I will show you the current status and efforts for Egypt Renewable Thrive, and I'll give you a brief about the energy sector in Egypt. This will take us, I may just show my screen clearly. The contents of my presentation will include the electricity sector until 2014 in Egypt and the challenges met the sector of electricity and renewable energy in Egypt and the solutions made to overcome these challenges. And then I will show the current situation of electricity and renewable energy in Egypt, followed by the updated electricity and renewable energy sector vision and mission under the strategy of 2035 that's set by Egyptian electricity sector. Also, I will show some legislative framework updates that already upgraded and stated to our energy sector to enable more renewable energy deployment in Egypt. Of course, this combined with the incentives for the investment in renewable energy. And there are a lot of ongoing projects and upgrades in transmission and distribution sector will be shown also. And Egypt as international interconnection and hub in the region of MENA. And then I will finish my presentation with the future projects foreseen in the next few years. First of all, the electricity sector until 2014 had about 32 gigawatts of installed capacities and maximum load of 20 gigawatts. This was serving about 30 million consumers with the electricity share of capita of about 1,900 kilowatt hour per capita. And the total electricity access rate was 99.7. These main indicators may show that the electricity sector was covering well the demand, but in fact, due to the large lifetime of production facilities and generation power plants, this kind of demand met by supply wasn't that successful in that time. That's why Egypt faced several challenges like fuel shortages, massive electrical power outages, and low availability of power plants. And of course, we met several transmission constraints and processes. These challenges, as you can see in the right of the screen, in August 2014, we have already deficit of electricity supply for up to 6 gigawatts from our demand. Egypt has taken a very keen and very aggressive plan to have this situation overcome, and a huge work has been done and accomplished to overcome the deficit in electricity supply. This plan included 3 tracks. First one, the fast track plan, and the second one, completing the under construction power plant started before 2014, and installing mega power plants in cooperation with SIEMENS Company. And I will show you in the next slides how Egypt proceeded with these steps. First, the fast track plan, in about 8 months and a half, Egypt already installed around 3.7 megawatts of installed capacities, new installed capacities, with a total investments of $2.7 billion. These 7 power plants in different countries, in different governorates in Egypt, around Egypt, to meet the deficit of electricity, and in the very faraway locations like in Upper Egypt, we distributed a very small units of 25 megawatts, mobile units, around the Upper Egypt to meet the deficit in these areas. All these investments were developed by EPC plus finance schemes. Regarding the completing under the construction power plants before 2014, there were a lot of projects in pipeline before 2014, but due to several circumstances met Egypt in this time, these power plants weren't accomplished in the meantime and the time they were scheduled for. But after 2014, Egypt make it fast to deploy and install the planned projects for electricity generation, and already added capacities in a 1 year from January to December 2015, completed from the fast track plan and the already planned power plants before 2014, around 7 gigawatts from conventional energies and renewables. These 5 or 6 power plants in front of us around Egypt from north to covered Egypt from north to south, and covered several technologies from gas, renewable energies like small or medium hydro power plants, and wind and solar parks. Furthermore, Egypt installed the 3 mega projects in cooperation with SIEMENS Company. The Egyptian electricity and renewable energy sector succeeded with SIEMENS to establish 3 megawatt projects of total capacity 14.4 thousand megawatts in 2.5 years. This, as you can see, around 45% of the installed capacity in 2015. And by the end of 2015, all these capacities came on grid. And also they were financed by EPC plus finance for about 6 billion euros. The added installed capacities from 2014 to 2020 already doubled the installed capacities in Egypt in 2014. And as you can see, we already added 28.2 gigawatts from different technologies from December 2014 until October 22, to have an installed capacity becoming around 60 gigawatts this year. Here is generation performance that already planned and already accomplished plans succeeded in Egypt. As you can see that no load shedding after 2015 in June, and before this time a lot of sheddings has been faced by Egyptian electric sector, and demand that was very critical to be covered, but the deficit of electricity wasn't covering it that good. The current situation after installing the fast track plan and finishing the planned projects and having a new strategy in Egypt up to 2035, we can see that the installed capacities come to 6 gigawatts, and the maximum load increased to 33 gigawatts, and the number of consumers increased from 30 to 38 million beneficiary from electricity service and have access to electricity. Also, the electricity access rate increased to 99.7%. In fact, Egypt is having a very large demand and increasing demand in under several sectors, especially in residential, which is already considered and expressing 45% of Egyptian electricity demand. And the total demand is foreseen to be increased threefold in 2050. Egypt's strategic vision for energy is to maximize the efficient use of various energy resources in a competitive environment manner, focusing on renewable energy. A coherence among Egypt's energy vision 2035 and the national SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030, and UN Sustainable Development Goals in 2030 are all combined in the Egyptian Sustainable Energy Strategy to 2035. The mission under this strategy is providing continuous and safe supply of electricity to all consumers in Egypt on economic basis and according to international performance standards, taking into consideration all the environmental, social, and economic determinants, and producing electricity from diversified sources of conventional and renewable energy. As you saw in previous slides, we already have installed capacity from conventional most of gas, and also we have wind and solar and hydropower plants. The energy strategy till 2035 is approved by the Supreme Council Energy in Egypt under the name Integrated and Sustainable Energy Strategy till 2035, and it targets 42% of renewable energies to be installed by the year 2035. Studies are in progress to raise this share of renewable energy to reach 47% of installed capacities by 2040. The mix will include renewables, natural gas, nuclear, and oil. And currently, Egypt eliminated coal power plant option, and excluded it from energy mix to be replaced by renewable energy. The foreseen Egyptian energy mix in 2035 under the current plans is going to be 42%, and most of them will be coming from PV installations, followed by wind power plants, and the CSP, and then hydro. You can see that hydro will not be that much because the Egyptian hydro resources is limited. And of course, as you can see, the energy strategy eliminated coal option from the mix. Egypt has a very good potential from wind and solar. And these solar atlases prepared by the National Renewable Energy Authority in Egypt already showing the potentials from wind and solar, which calculated at 90 gigawatts in the shown areas in Gulf of Suez and east and west of Nile. This potential is calculated in the areas which is already allocated for NEREA projects, which are around 7,000 kilometers square. Also, Egypt's electricity sector has made a very long list of updates and upgrades in legislative infrastructures, and to have this kind of renewable projects installed and encourage a private sector in participation in our energy system. Started in March 2014 by the amendment of electricity ministry name itself, by naming it the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy, to prove that Egypt has this mandate and this strict plan to have renewable energies in its future generation plans. In 2014, also in July, a tariff reform program was adopted and announced for 5 years up to 2019, but the plan is delayed due to several circumstances to the year 2022. But this reform targeted the tariff of renewable electricity sector to give this opportunity to renewable energy projects to come and have different installations in commercially to our energy sector. In September, the cabinet approved the issuance of feed-in tariff of electricity projects produced from renewable energy resources, and its prices was issued by Prime Minister Decree in October 2014. This feed-in tariff scheme is already saturated, and 2 gigawatts from wind energy and another 2 gigawatts from PV already in place, and some of them are under construction now. NREA establishing law has been amended to allow NREA to establish companies by itself or in partnership with private sector to implement renewable energy projects. In December 2014, a renewable energy law was issued to encourage generating the electricity from renewable energy sources through different schemes for energy for project generation, like build on operate scheme and the feed-in tariff scheme and the build on operate and transfer scheme. And also the law gave a room to auctions schemes and competitive biddings. In July 2015, the new electricity law establishment of a competitive electricity market is considered under the law, which is based on bilateral contracts and adoption of the concept of eligible customers, third-party access, establishment of transmission system operators, and provide assurance for private sector to invest in new projects for electricity generation. The law issued in 2016, and the second phase of feed-in tariff that is already saturated and closed was in October 2016. The law gives several incentives for investments in renewable energy in Egypt by considering the renewable energy in our energy strategy until 2035 to encourage private investments. We started with electricity tariff reform as already announced since July 2014, and concerning the renewable energy, many different mechanisms were considered: EPC tenders, BEO, IBB, and feed-in tariff, and net metering and auctions. The incentives also include the land that has been allocated for renewable energy projects, solar and wind, in Gulf of Suez and in east and west of Nile, for areas about 7,000 kilometers square. The availability of information is very crucial to project investors, renewable energy project investments, because if you don't have this kind of resources, measurements and resources assessments, you can't put the right project in the right place. That's why NREA insisted on having this solar and wind emphasis for Egypt, all over Egypt, and make it available for investors, to make it easy for them, and to become a very clear and affordable document available for investors to help them make the decision of investment. Also, we have the environmental impact assessment studies in place by NREA in the allocated areas. Long-term bankable power purchase agreements and network connection contracts already in place too. And the custom duties for all important materials and equipment don't exceed 2% for renewable energy component. Sovereign guarantee issued by Ministry of Finance to give this kind of guarantees to investors to come to invest in renewable energy in Egypt. For the wind energy, for the current situation, Egypt established already 1.3 gigawatts in Gulf of Zayt wind farms and Zafran wind farms. And some of these projects is already old and need to be renovated and upgraded now. And Egypt will cooperate soon with several development partners and private sector to have new projects in these areas, besides the renovation and upgrade of the already installed capacities from wind energy. Egypt, a few days ago, in 4th of October, has signed a 500 megawatt project in Gulf of Suez with the consortium of ENGIE, Toyota, and Orascom. And there were already signed power purchase agreement with Lakela Power in Gulf of Suez of 250 megawatts. And now the under implementation wind energy project is about 750 megawatts from wind energy. Regarding solar energy, there are 32 signed power purchase agreements. In fact, all these power purchase agreements in Binban location in Upper Egypt, and the interim president of the World Bank Group, Christina Georgieva, announces that the Binban solar project in Aswan won the best project prize worldwide in 2019. And this project is the proof of the Egyptian electric sector of involving the private sector in renewable energy and encouraging them to come to invest in renewable energy in Egypt. Because these 32 projects are from private sector and installed 1.5 gigawatts from PV technology. And the project area covered 37 kilometers square, and the total investments for this project was more than $2 billion. And this project already offered more than 10,000 job opportunities. Regarding the hydropower generation in Egypt, we already have 6 power plants of total installed capacity 2.8 gigawatts. The largest one of them is the high dam of 200.1 megawatt, and the other barrages and reservoirs in Aswan. Also, they are in Upper Egypt, representing the hydropower in Egypt, and it's already installed since a long time ago, in 1960, for the high dam, and several upgrades and modernization projects already implemented on these power plants from hydro, and they are working in our system. So the current renewable energy situation from wind and solar PV and CSP and hydro already comprising 5.8 gigawatt, which is representing 10% of total renewable energy installed in Egypt. The coming projects in Egypt for renewable energy and the nuclear are part of our energy strategy for 2035. Egypt is planned to have 4.8 gigawatts from nuclear power plants in Tabaa, with investments for about $21.3 billion, and already contracted the Rosatom from Russia, and it's foreseen to be commissioning in 27 to 2030, because the project will be developed in 1.2 gigawatts every year to be on grid. And then we have also the Ataka pump storage power plant. It's about 8 units, each one representing 300 megawatts. It's a pump and storage power plant of total capacity 2.4 gigawatts and investment cost around $2.6 billion, and is contracted with Sinohydro from China, and the project is foreseen to be implemented in next 7 years. Egypt didn't forget the upgrading of transmission grid, that because the deficit in 2014, as already discussed, part of it was the transmission grid, which was not that affordable and in good situation to cover the demand and evacuate the already generated capacities to the demand side. And then Egypt started to have new control centers to upgrade the transmission grid, and they have new transmission network expansion for 500 kilovolts, and also new substations construction. This slide is showing the control centers before 2014 and the other ones under implementation and completed. There are around 11 control centers around Egypt, and a lot of upgrades in cooperation with the development partners are ongoing. For the 500 kilovolt transmission network and the substations, Egypt already added more than 3,000.6 kilometers of cables for transmission network, which around 1.5 times the existing lengths in 2014, and already added 30 substations with total capacities of 44.2 megavolt ampere, more than 4 times existed in 2014. Regarding the modernization of distribution control centers, actually the project for the establishment and development of control centers of electricity distribution companies implemented under 4 phases, and the first phase targeted 12 control centers, and is foreseen to be finished by 2021. And the total plan for the modernization of distribution control centers is foreseen to be finalized by December 2024. And there will be around more than 30 control centers around Egypt serving the grid. Also, Egypt, under its strategy, considered the interconnection with neighbor countries as a very considerable factor. That Egypt's location gives it the privilege to be an energy hub for international interconnections and corridors in MENA and in MENA region, and to Africa, also to Europe. Participation in global interconnections is very good for Egypt, and is a very excellent opportunity for Egypt, because the excellent location. Egypt, as you know, is located between Europe, Asia, and Africa, and existing interconnection with neighboring countries like Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Libya and others, and the huge renewable energy potential, and of course the surplus in energy production in Egypt after the implementation of the already discussed projects, and currently the transmission and distribution networks are being strengthened and upgraded to evacuate more energy on them, and to have smart grid in several locations in Egypt, to have finally a smart grid all over the country. Of course, the strong local manufacturing of electricity equipment is a very good factor for Egypt. That Egypt already have manufactured for cables and several mechanical and electrical components that serve the energy project and the electricity generation project and interconnection. Egypt is an energy hub, as you can see from this slide. Egypt lies in the heart of the world and already have interconnection with Jordan for 400 megawatts, 150 megawatts, and it will be upgraded to reach 3,000 megawatts. Also, Egypt has interconnection with Libya up to 200 megawatts, and 2 lines for interconnection with Sudan are ongoing, and the interconnection with Saudi Arabia is already signed during this month. Also, the electrical interconnection for current projects can be shown here, and as you can see, the implementation started like for Cyprus to interconnect Egypt with Europe. Interconnection with Cyprus is started in 2018 and is foreseen to exchange about 2,000 megawatts between the 2 countries. Regarding the future projects, which I would like to finish my presentation with, Egypt is looking for having projects from waste to energy, and energy from waste is in the process of generation in the form of electricity and or heat. According to the Ministry of Environment, we have a plan to have 20% of the total collected municipal waste will be forwarded to the technologies of waste to energy. About 4.2 million tons of municipal waste will be converted to energy. Of course, private sector participation is highly recommended and invited to participate in this kind of projects. And the compensation tariff for purchasing electricity produced from solid waste is already in place and calculated at 1.4 Egyptian pounds per kilowatt hour. The expected electricity that could be generated from waste, according to the cabinet decree, is foreseen to be 300 megawatts in the coming 5 years. Also, Egypt has a very ambitious target for green hydrogen, connecting to several efforts towards green hydrogen adoption through bilateral cooperations. A few days ago, precisely in October 4th, Egypt signed its agreement with 3 companies from Norway, Netherlands, and United Arab Emirates to establish a 100 megawatt hydrogen facility. And already Egypt is a member of Green Hydrogen Collaborative Framework and the Green Hydrogen Compact of IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency. Also, Egypt is studying the modernization of the old Egyptian chemical industries factory that uses electricity from hydropower to produce ammonia since 1965. Thank you, and I have the pleasure to receive your questions.
Okay, thanks, Ali, for this generous and comprehensive overview of Egypt's real landscape. To give a brief summary, Egypt intends to increase the supply of electricity generated from resource from the 20% by 2022 to 42% by 2035, and among which PV power is expected to provide around 22%, wind around 14%, CSP around 5%, and hydropower around 2%. But there is one type of projects missing here, that is the battery storage projects. How would you size the battery storage market in Egypt, either in terms of utility scale usage or commercial scale usage? And what about the application scenarios it will be used, linking to the generation, like batteries coupled with solar and wind, or it will mainly be applied to ancillary services like stabilizing the grid or peak shaving? Your idea. Sorry, Ali, you are muted.
Actually, for storage in Egypt is already planned for small projects, not for the utility projects with mega production from PV or wind or other renewable energy technologies. Of course, because of the cost, and Egypt is looking for this kind of storage through the exchange of electricity with neighboring countries. It will not be direct storage as known in battery storage for large utility scale projects, but the interconnections will cover this kind of storage by exchanging electricity with the neighboring countries in the peak load area time. Of course, the storage is very crucial for renewable energies and for the intermittence, the intermittence. Let's say. Sorry, I missed that. I missed the word. The intermittent situation of the renewable energies, which needs for this kind of projects a very large investment, which is not foreseen maybe in the near years to be established in Egypt.
So in terms of a large scale, like renewable energy storage or, the grid facility stabilization, CSP would be a more, how to put it, CSP would be good enough or makes more sense in the Egyptian landscape.
In fact, Egypt has an experience with CSP projects. And of course, it's a very good opportunity for Egypt to have this kind of projects. And the only project from CSP is about 2 megawatt project, 20 megawatt project, combined with a gas power plant of 120 megawatts. But Egypt faced several problems with this kind of projects, but it's in our plans. But PV and wind are the most foreseen projects in the future, in the near future at least.
Yes, and I have a very interesting figure from our second presenter, from his slides actually. He wrote on the slides that the retarget for Egypt by 2035 would be 54 gigawatt of renewable capacity, and currently we are standing at 5.4 gigawatt. So it means you need to growth at 10 times in the next 15 years, and which segment holds the most potential in that landscape?
As presented during the presentation, you can see that the most dominating technologies will come from wind and solar. And as I mentioned, that our wind projects, the old wind projects, are of small capacities. It's more than 30 years ago, power plants installed 30 years ago. And upgrading these projects will enable Egypt to have the planned installed capacities in this small time of planning of energy sector, and of course wind in as an instance, wind projects in Gulf of Suez, the capacity of a turbine is about 700 kilowatts, and we have now 5 megawatt turbines for wind. This kind of technology upgrade will enable Egypt to have the 45 gigawatts in under the current plans.
Yes, very well. And what do you think would be the challenges in execution of large solar or wind projects in Egypt? If possible, maybe we can take retrospect into the 380 megawatt Benben solar farm you just mentioned in the presentation slides. What might be the challenges for large scale redevelopment in Egypt, and what might be your inputs on that?
The first challenge is finishing the transmission lines and the interconnections that will evacuate all these kinds of generation from renewable energies from wind and solar to the grid. This challenge is crucial for Egypt's electricity sector, because if we didn't finish our transmission lines in time, this kind of generation projects will not be successful investment. We will lose a lot of money and a lot of efforts from this side. Furthermore, the next challenge may be for the PV projects, the dusty weather of Egypt, which will make it higher in O&M costs than wind projects. We already have the price for PV electricity generated at $1.9 US, and for the wind is 2.1 US dollars for kilowatt hours. Increasing this cost will make the privilege of gas in Egypt and giving it a privilege competing with the renewables again, because Egypt already has a lot of discoveries on gas in the recent years. I think these three challenges are the most crucial for the deployment of wind and solar in Egypt during at least 5 or 10 years in the future.
Yes, and as you touch on the transmission line as well as its potential constraints to the renewable energy, can you tell us a bit more about the connection fees at the moment, and what about the quota for renewable energy for 2022 or 2023? Do we have a quota?
No, I don't think we have this now in Egypt, and I don't think it's not planned in the future.
Okay, good. And also about the supply chain as well as the local content issue in Egypt. Is the production of solar modules going to be localized in Egypt, or if there will be any other components shall be localized in Egypt?
Actually, Egypt already manufacture about 70% of its projects of renewable energy projects already manufactured in Egypt. We have some factories for wind blades, and of course cable manufacturers and cable factories, and we also have the mechanical and the consultative services provided from Egyptian private sector. But the 30% is foreseen to be imported from development countries, partner development countries, and private sector stakeholders who are coming to invest in Egypt.
Right.
For the PV technology, Egypt started a factory in cooperation with China, small facility for PV manufacturing. and I think it's being upgraded in the next year. It's going to be upgraded to produce more than 300 megawatts per year. It's a small facility, not very big.
Yes, great. And one last question before we wrap up your session. The last question with regards to international energy trade. As you mentioned in the slides that multiple interconnection partnership and the projects are being signed between Egypt and Jordan, Libya, Saudi, Greece, etc. Can you give us a big picture about about the future of this international energy trade market in your eyes?
In fact, Egypt is targeting to export all the surplus to the neighbor countries and Europe precisely because during the last few years we already signed several interconnection agreements. And already we have this project for interconnection with Greece, Cyprus, and to Europe. And also we have this line from Egypt to Jordan that will be continue to Turkey and to Europe from the east side. Also the Libyan interconnection with Egypt is foreseen to be completed during the few coming years to interconnect Egypt to Morocco, then to Europe from the west side. Of course, Egypt has a very huge potential for interconnection and electricity trade, and this will be foreseen in near future. We will not wait too much to see this interconnection and trade of electricity with our neighbors.
Great. Thank you so much for your kind address, and thank you so much for being with us today.